Welcome to Animal Quests, where nature's fiercest predators come to life. Today we reveal 6 terrifying tales from the ocean's deadliest hunters, from the relentless jaws of sharks to the stealthy ambushes of crocodiles. These 6 stories will take you to the edge of your seat. Can you imagine being a father and watching your daughter's excitement as she asks to go snorkeling on her birthday, only for that joyful moment to turn into a fight for her life? This is the story of the Miller family, who embarked on what was supposed to be a day of celebration, adventure, and joy off the coast of Florida on June 18, 2022. It was a perfect summer day, the kind that begs for a family outing on the water. The sea was calm, and the sun's rays danced on the surface, creating a glittering expanse of blue. Mark Miller, a 42-year-old father, had planned this trip as a special treat for his daughter Sarah's 12th birthday. Sarah, a bright and adventurous girl with a deep love for the ocean, could hardly contain her excitement. Her parents had given her a brand new snorkeling set, and she was eager to try it out. As the Millers sailed across the tranquil waters, they marveled at the beauty around them. Sarah leaned over the edge of the boat, her eyes wide with wonder as she spotted a school of colorful fish darting just below the surface. She pleaded with her father to let her go snorkeling, her enthusiasm too contagious for him to resist. Mark hesitated. He was a cautious man, always aware of the potential dangers of the ocean. But Sarah's excitement was overwhelming, and he didn't want to dampen her spirits on her special day. With a reassuring glance at his wife, Laura, who remained at the helm of the boat, Mark agreed. Laura nodded, her face reflecting both excitement and concern, knowing she would keep a watchful eye on them while they explored the waters below. Mark and Sarah donned their snorkeling gear and slid into the warm, inviting water. For a moment, everything was perfect. The underwater world was a kaleidoscope of colors, with fish of all shapes and sizes swimming around them. Sarah was in her element, pointing out every new discovery to her father. She was thrilled when she spotted a parrotfish, its scales shimmering in bright blues and greens. But as Sarah remained focused on the vibrant marine life around her, Mark's attention was drawn to something far more sinister. Just behind Sarah, a massive shape emerged. A tiger shark nearly 10 feet long, its broad body marked with the dark stripes that gave it its name. The shark moved with terrifying grace, its powerful tail propelling it swiftly through the water. Mark's heart pounded as he realized the danger, but Sarah was oblivious, still captivated by the parrotfish. Desperately, Mark reached for her, but it was too late. The shark struck with brutal force. Sarah's scream pierced the tranquility of the day and sent a wave of panic through Mark. The shark had latched onto her leg, dragging her under the water. Mark froze as the shark attacked, his mind momentarily paralyzed by the sheer terror of what was happening. It's a reaction that often grips people in the face of traumatic events, a moment of helplessness where time seems to stand still. But as the water around him turned red, the sight of his daughter's blood snapped him back to reality. In that instant, all fear was replaced by a single, overpowering instinct: to save Sarah at any cost, even if it meant sacrificing his own life. With adrenaline surging through his veins, Mark propelled himself toward her, his movements driven by an unstoppable determination. Without hesitation, he launched himself at the shark, jabbing at its eye with all the strength he could muster. The shark recoiled, loosening its grip on Sarah. For a heart-stopping moment, Mark feared he had failed, but then the shark released her completely, retreating into the deep blue. Sarah's body floated limply in the water, and Mark's heart sank with dread. He grabbed her, his arms trembling as he pulled her close, and started swimming back toward the boat, his strokes frantic and desperate. On the boat, Laura had witnessed the attack. Her screams echoed across the water as she frantically waved her arms, signaling for help. 2 nearby boats had heard the commotion and were speeding towards them. As Mark approached the boat, one of the other vessels arrived, tossing a lifebuoy toward him. Mark, exhausted and struggling to keep Sarah afloat, grabbed the buoy with one hand, holding his daughter with the other. The crew on the boat hauled them aboard, their faces pale with shock. Mark laid Sarah on the deck, his voice trembling with desperation as he pleaded for someone to help her. The crew sprang into action, applying pressure to her wounds and radioing for a helicopter. Minutes felt like hours, but eventually the helicopter arrived, landing on the shore just as the boat pulled in. Sarah was rushed to the hospital, where doctors worked tirelessly to save her life. The wounds were severe, but thanks to the quick actions of her father and the rescuers, Sarah's life was spared. As the day drew to a close, the Millers knew they would never be the same. Despite the attack, Sarah's passion for the underwater world remained strong. She faced her recovery with the same fearless enthusiasm, and after months of healing, she could walk again, her spirit unbroken. Her parents often called her their wonder child, amazed by her resilience and determination. Mark, however, couldn't shake the guilt of letting Sarah into the water that day. He regretted his decision, knowing how close they had come to losing her. Yet, seeing Sarah's unwavering love for the ocean, he realized that sometimes protecting those we love means letting them pursue their passions, even when it frightens us. Filmmaking in the depths of the ocean can be as dangerous as it is awe-inspiring. It's a pursuit that takes you to places where the beauty of nature meets the brink of survival, where every dive could be your last. On April 22, 2022, what began as a routine dive for environmentalist Ethan Wells and his instructor Lucas Harrington quickly turned into a harrowing battle for survival. Ethan Wells, a 29-year-old environmentalist and filmmaker, was no stranger to the ocean's depths. He had spent years documenting marine life, particularly sharks, aiming to change public perception of these often misunderstood predators. In 2017, Ethan captured a remarkable shot of an 18-foot great white shark off the coast of South Africa. Having encountered numerous sharks, Ethan felt a deep respect for the ocean. Accompanied by 35-year-old Lucas Harrington, a seasoned diving instructor with extensive experience in challenging conditions, as the boat cut through the water toward a remote dive spot, Ethan and Lucas reviewed their plan. Their goal was to document the behavior of bull sharks, a species known for its unpredictable nature and powerful presence. These sharks had been spotted in this area frequently over the last few months, making it an ideal location for their shoot. Lucas, with years of experience diving in shark-infested waters, emphasized the importance of vigilance, knowing that the ocean could turn treacherous in an instant. With their gear checked and cameras ready, Ethan and Lucas descended into the azure waters of the Exuma Caves. As they glided deeper, the sunlight filtered through the water in a dance of refracted light, illuminating the vibrant coral reefs and schools of fish that surrounded them. It was a scene of serene beauty, a world that required both respect and caution. Soon the first sharks appeared, graceful and menacing in their silence. Ethan focused his camera on a bull shark in the distance, its silhouette a reminder of the power these creatures held. He was enthralled, capturing every movement with the precision of a man devoted to his craft. As he concentrated on the shark ahead, he remained conscious of his surroundings, a habit honed from years of diving. But even the most seasoned divers can be caught off guard. Without warning, a second bull shark, larger and more aggressive, struck from behind. Its jaws clamped down on Ethan's arm and torso with terrifying force, dragging him into the depths. The water erupted in a cloud of blood, the serene blue now a chaotic storm of red. The camera slipped from Ethan's grasp, spiraling downward into the abyss as he struggled against the powerful predator. Lucas, mere feet away, reacted immediately. His training and experience took over, knowing that every second counted. He drew his diving knife, its blade glinting ominously in the murky water, and lunged toward the shark, aiming for its sensitive areas. The shark's eye, a small dark target, became his focus. He struck with everything he had, the blade sinking into the tough skin and muscle of the predator. Ethan fought with every ounce of strength he could muster, his body racked with pain and fear. He struck at the shark's gills with his free hand, desperate to escape the crushing grip of its jaws. The shark thrashed, a behemoth of raw power, but Lucas's relentless assault finally made it release its hold. The shark retreated, disappearing into the darkness from which it came, leaving behind a trail of blood and a man on the brink of death. Ethan was losing blood fast. his body limp and battered. Lucas knew they had to reach the surface, quickly. He grabbed Ethan, holding him close as he signaled an emergency ascent. The journey upward felt like an eternity, each second fraught with the fear of what might still lurk below. Breaking through the water's surface, the world above seemed alien, a stark contrast to the life and death struggle they had just survived. Lucas hauled Ethan onto the deck of the speedboat, his hands trembling with urgency. With the engine roaring, Lucas steered the boat toward the shore, every second critical. He fired an emergency flare into the sky, a bright beacon of distress. On the horizon, lifeguards spotted the signal and sprang into action, readying themselves to provide immediate assistance. Lucas kept talking to Ethan, urging him to stay awake, to fight through the pain, knowing that help was on its way. As they neared the shore, the beach buzzed with urgent activity. Lifeguards and medical teams stood ready, their faces set with determination. The boat hit the sand, and Lucas shouted for help. The lifeguards swiftly lifted Ethan onto a stretcher and rushed him to the waiting ambulance. Ethan's vision blurred as the medics worked with practiced speed, stabilizing him and stemming the blood loss. Lucas, exhausted and shaken, felt a surge of relief. They had made it. Ethan was alive. As the ambulance sped away, its sirens fading into the distance, Lucas stood on the beach, his mind racing. The ocean, once serene, now seemed like a different world, a place where life and death collided in an instant. But amid the fear, there was hope. They had survived. Days later, as Ethan recovered in the hospital, the reality of what had happened weighed heavily on him. He had never been blindsided by a shark, something he'd always respected and approached with caution. The camera, lost to the depths, meant the footage was gone forever. But as he lay there, Ethan knew that his life was worth more than any film. The ocean had shown him its true power, and he would never forget the lesson it taught him that day. The serene beaches of Western Australia can be as treacherous as they are beautiful. For Carlos and Isabella Martinez, newly married and eager to explore, their dream honeymoon destination turned into a nightmare on March 15, 1998. Carlos, with his adventurous spirit, had chosen Australia as the perfect place to begin their life together. As the sun began its descent, casting a warm golden glow over the beach, Carlos and Isabella decided to take one last dive before heading back to their resort. The day had been hot, and the cool waters of the Indian Ocean seemed the perfect way to end it. The beach, once bustling with activity, was beginning to empty as people packed up and left. The boats that had dotted the horizon were now few and far between. As they waded into the ocean, Carlos couldn't contain his excitement. He had been looking forward to this all day, a chance to explore the vibrant coral reef he had read about. Isabella, however, was more cautious. She loved the ocean, but something about the fading light and the emptying beach made her uneasy. She hesitated, suggesting they stay closer to shore where the water was shallower and the coral just as beautiful. Carlos, already adjusting his snorkel mask, gently urged Isabella to venture a little further out, captivated by the idea of seeing more and exploring beyond the usual spots. Isabella, still uncertain, reluctantly agreed, not wanting to dampen his spirits. They swam out, the water cool against their skin, and began exploring the coral below. Carlos was completely absorbed in the underwater scene, his head submerged, taking in every detail. Isabella, however, lingered closer to the surface, occasionally lifting her head above water to check their surroundings. It was during one of these moments that she noticed something that made her heart skip a beat, a fin slicing through the water, not far behind Carlos. At first, she thought she might be imagining it, her mind playing tricks on her in the fading light. But as the fin moved closer, her fear solidified into a terrifying reality. Panic gripped her as she realized what it was. A shark, large and menacing, moving silently through the water. Isabella's breath caught in her throat. She tried to scream, to warn Carlos, but her voice was muffled by the water and the distance between them. She frantically waved her arms, desperately trying to get his attention. But Carlos, his head still underwater and completely engrossed in the beauty of the coral reef, didn't notice. In a split second, the shark lunged, its powerful body surging forward with terrifying speed. Before Carlos could even react, he was pulled under in a violent thrash of water. The ocean, which had been so serene just moments before, erupted into chaos. Isabella watched in horror as the water around Carlos turned red, the once clear waves now stained with blood. The shark, a massive great white, had attacked with brutal efficiency, its jaws clamping down with deadly force. Carlos struggled, but the shark's strength was overwhelming. Isabella was frozen in terror, unable to move or think as she witnessed the last moments of her husband's life. She was torn between the instinct to help him and the knowledge that she too would be in danger if she approached. Overwhelmed by fear, she made the agonizing decision to swim back to shore, her heart pounding as she screamed for help. Her strokes were frantic, driven by pure adrenaline, but the shore seemed impossibly far away. Each stroke felt heavier, as if the ocean itself was trying to hold her back. Finally, she reached the shore, collapsing onto the sand, her body trembling violently. Lifeguards and bystanders rushed to her side, their concern growing as they realized the severity of the situation. The lifeguards immediately launched a rescue operation, speeding out to the area where Carlos had disappeared on jet skis. The search was intense, but the ocean gave no clues, its surface calm once more, as if nothing had happened. As the hours turned into days, hope dwindled. The ocean, vast and unforgiving, had claimed another life. Days later, a massive 18-foot great white shark was captured several miles from the attack site. Inside, the remains of Carlos were discovered, confirming the worst. The realization hit hard. There was nothing anyone could have done to prevent the tragedy. Isabella returned to Spain, haunted by the final terrifying moments when she last saw her husband. We don't stop with romantic couples, as the next story takes us to the wilds of northern Australia, where crocodiles reign supreme. Did you know that crocodiles are more deadly than sharks? This couple learned that the hard way. In August 2020, Jake Robinson and Emma Lewis, both 27, set out from Sydney on a weekend getaway that would satisfy their shared love for adrenaline and adventure. They weren't the cautious type, far from it. For them, nature was a playground, and danger was just part of the thrill. Their destination was a remote area near Kakadu National Park, a region known for its breathtaking landscapes and treacherous wildlife. Jake and Emma were excited by the idea of exploring an untouched wilderness, far from the noise of civilization. As they drove deeper into the heart of the wilderness, the landscape became more isolated, the trees denser, and the path more rugged. The last stretch of their journey took them down a dirt road that wound through the thick forest, ending at a secluded river that seemed to be theirs alone. The air was still, the only sounds those of distant birds and the soft rustle of leaves. As they began their hike toward the river, they encountered several large, weathered signs along the trail. The signs were clear. They warned of the presence of saltwater crocodiles in the area and explicitly advised against swimming in the river. However, Jake and Emma saw the signs as nothing more than overcautious warnings for less adventurous visitors. To them, these signs were just obstacles to be ignored on their way to experiencing something extraordinary. When they arrived at the river, they were greeted by a pristine scene. The heat of the day made the cool river water impossible to resist. Without hesitation, Jake stripped down to his swim trunks and waded into the river, the refreshing chill a welcome relief from the scorching sun. Emma followed close behind, splashing playfully, both of them laughing and joking as they pushed the warnings from their minds. The river, with its clear water and peaceful surroundings, seemed like the perfect escape. They swam and floated, savoring nature's beauty, oblivious to the deadly predator lurking below. For a brief, blissful moment, they reveled in the thrill of their defiance and the freedom of the wild. But nature has its own rules, and the wilderness is not a place to be underestimated. Suddenly, the peace of the river was shattered. The water around Jake exploded as a massive saltwater crocodile lunged from beneath the surface, its jaws clamping down on his leg with bone-crushing force. In an instant, Jake was pulled underwater, the river turning red as he struggled against the predator. Emma's scream pierced the air as she watched in horror, paralyzed by fear. The serene river had transformed into a nightmare. Jake, now submerged, fought desperately, thrashing against the crocodile's unyielding grip, his lungs burning as he tried to reach the surface. Each movement was a frantic battle for survival, but the crocodile's power was overwhelming. Snapping out of her shock, Emma realized she needed help. She turned and ran, her heart pounding, knowing they were deep in the wilderness, far from any immediate assistance. As she sprinted through the trees, the roar of an engine broke the forest's stillness. Park Ranger Dave Miller, on his routine patrol, was driving through the area when he heard screams coming from the river. Instincts kicking in, he knew something was terribly wrong. Dave brought his vehicle to a screeching halt and jumped out, grabbing a long pole from the back of his truck. Without hesitation, he waded into the shallows, using the pole to prod the crocodile, trying to distract it and force it to release its grip. It was a dangerous move, but Dave knew it was the only way to save Jake. With a mix of skill and luck, Dave managed to jab the crocodile in a sensitive spot near its eyes. The massive reptile, momentarily disoriented, loosened its grip on Jake, allowing him to break free and struggle towards the shore. Dave quickly grabbed Jake's arm and pulled him to safety, helping him onto the bank. Emma, pale with fear, rushed to Jake's side. Without hesitation, she and Dave lifted him into the back of the 404. Blood pooled beneath his leg, the wound gaping and serious, but there was no time to assess the damage fully. Dave, experienced and efficient, knew the priority was getting Jake to the hospital as fast as possible. They sped down the rough terrain, the vehicle bouncing with every bump and turn. At the hospital, the staff quickly took over. Jake was rushed into surgery, the medical team working swiftly to stem the bleeding and repair the damage. Hours later, they emerged with the news. Jake's leg was badly injured, but he would walk again after a long recovery. Dave, the ranger, couldn't shake the feeling that Jake had narrowly escaped a far worse fate. His timely arrival nothing short of a miracle. In that moment, it was clear that something beyond luck had been at play, as if a guardian angel had guided him to the river just in time to save a life. Sometimes curiosity can lead us into unexpected danger. What begins as an ordinary day filled with adventure can swiftly turn into a nightmare. On July 17, 2019, along the stunning coastline of Maui, Hawaii, where over 100,000 surfers visit each year, Rachel Carter, a 23-year-old experienced surfer, felt the familiar pull of the ocean's rhythm. Having grown up on the California coast, Rachel was no stranger to the sea. Now, on vacation with her boyfriend, Mike Stevens, she eagerly prepared to catch some waves, while Mike relaxed on the beach. Rachel paddled out with ease, losing herself in the ocean's embrace. Soon, she noticed a pod of dolphins in the distance. Her heart leaped with excitement. Without a second thought, Rachel began paddling towards them. Her curiosity piqued. The dolphins were farther out than Rachel usually ventured, but their allure was irresistible. She paddled harder, her breath quickening with excitement. Lost in the moment, she followed them further from shore, unaware of the distance she had covered, or the deepening blue beneath her. As Rachel neared the dolphins, she sensed a change. The water darkened, and the dolphins' movements grew erratic. Suddenly, she saw a flash of white and gray moving beneath her board. This was no dolphin. Before she could react, the water erupted. Her surfboard jolted violently, splintering as she was thrown into the cold shock of the ocean, swallowing her whole. As Rachel surfaced, gasping for air, she came face to face with the source of the chaos. A great white shark, nearly 15 feet long, its massive body gliding through the water with deadly intent. The remnants of Rachel's surfboard floated nearby, bitten clean in half by the shark's powerful jaws. Panic surged through her veins as she realized she was alone, far from shore, with nothing between her and the ocean's top predator. The shark circled her, its fin cutting through the water. Time seemed to slow as reality sank in. This was not a movie, not a nightmare she could wake from. This was real, And it was happening now. With terrifying speed, the shark lunged. Rachel's instincts took over. She kicked hard, aiming for the shark's snout and eyes. Its rough skin scraped against her, but she didn't stop. The shark's jaws snapped inches from her, relentless. Then, the first bite came, sending searing pain through Rachel's leg as the shark's teeth sank into her flesh. Blood clouded the water, intensifying the shark's frenzy. But Rachel refused to give up. Despite the pain and fear, she fought back, jabbing her fingers into the shark's eye. The shark recoiled, but not before its teeth grazed her arm. Trembling from blood loss and exhaustion, Rachel swam frantically toward the distant shore. Her strength was fading, and the shark circled slower now, as if weighing its options. Time was running out, and she knew it. On the shore, Mike had been watching in horror, his heart pounding in his chest as he realized what was happening. Rachel was too far out for him to reach her, and the helplessness of the situation gnawed at him. Desperate, Mike began yelling for help, waving his arms wildly, trying to attract the attention of anyone who could assist. But then, from a distance, the sound of a boat engine roared to life. A group of local boaters out on the water had noticed the commotion. They quickly rowed towards Rachel, the boat slicing through the waves with urgency. As they approached, the crew could see the struggle in the water, the shark circling its prey, the blood staining the sea. The boat reached Rachel just as the shark lunged again. One of the crew members, a burly man with years of experience on the water, leaned over the side, extending a hand towards Rachel. With the last of her strength, she reached up, her fingers grasping his as he hauled her onto the boat with a single, powerful motion. The shark, now thwarted, snapped its jaws in frustration, but the boat was already pulling away, its engine roaring as it sped back towards shore. The crew immediately began administering first aid, wrapping Rachel's wounds to stem the bleeding, while another crew member radioed for a helicopter, knowing that time was of the essence. As the boat raced back to shore, Rachel drifted in and out of consciousness, her vision blurred, her body heavy with exhaustion. But she was alive. Mike was waiting on the beach, his heart pounding as the boat approached. When he saw Rachel, pale, bloodied but alive, a wave of relief swept over him. Tears welled up as he rushed to her side, grasping her hand and whispering words of comfort, though she could barely hear them. Within minutes, a helicopter arrived and airlifted Rachel to Maui Memorial Medical Center. Rachel required emergency surgery to repair the damage to her leg and arm. The procedure was complex, but successful. It's hard to imagine how investigations can claim that humans are not on the menu for sharks when stories like Rachel's happen, yet they insist it's true. The next story you're about to hear is one of tragedy and terror, unfolding in the serene waters of the Greek Isles. Among the sun-kissed waves and ancient ruins lies a tale of a shark attack so harrowing that it remains one of the most shocking in the archives of the region. This is the story of Dr. Zoe Miller and Alex Diaz. In the summer of 2019, the secluded cove of Kalymnos, a hidden gem among the Greek Isles, was a place of stunning beauty and historical mystery. Dr. Zoe Miller, a renowned underwater archaeologist with a passion for uncovering the secrets of the deep, had heard rumors of an underwater cave rumored to hold ancient artifacts. The promise of undiscovered history called to her like a siren's song. Joining her was Alex Diaz, her trusted diving partner and fellow archaeologist. Together, they had explored countless underwater sites, their bond forged in the depths of the ocean. The morning sun painted the cove with golden hues as Zoe and Alex prepared for their dive. The air buzzed with excitement and anticipation, the thrill of discovery hanging thick. They meticulously checked their gear, ensuring everything was in place. The cave they were about to explore was said to be treacherous, its narrow passages and hidden chambers a challenge even for experienced divers. As they descended into the azure waters, the world above faded away, replaced by the silent, mesmerizing dance of the underwater realm. The cave's entrance loomed ahead, a dark maw against the shimmering sea. Zoe led the way, her heart pounding with the excitement of what lay within. The interior of the cave was a labyrinth of ancient stone, its walls adorned with the remnants of a long-forgotten civilization. Zoe and Alex moved cautiously, their flashlights cutting through the darkness, revealing relics that had lain undisturbed for centuries. Every twist and turn brought new discoveries, fueling their determination to delve deeper. But as they ventured further, a sense of unease began to settle in. The cave grew narrower, its passages more confining. Alex, who had always been the more cautious of the two, signaled for them to turn back, but Zoe, driven by the lure of discovery, pressed on. Then, without warning, the tranquil beauty of the cave shattered. A massive bull shark, territorial and fierce, surged from the shadows. The confined space amplified the terror, the creature's presence overwhelming in the narrow confines. It targeted Alex, its predatory instincts ignited. Panic erupted. Zoe fought to stay calm, her mind racing as she tried to think of a way to save her friend. Her training and experience kicked in. She knew that direct confrontation with the shark could be deadly. She grabbed her diving knife, a necessary tool for any underwater archaeologist, and positioned herself between Alex and the shark. The shark struck with brutal force, its jaws clamping down on Alex's leg. Blood clouded the water, a crimson cloud in the blue depths. Zoe's heart pounded in her chest as she struggled to fend off the shark. She struck at it with the knife, aiming for the sensitive areas around its eyes and gills. The confined space of the cave made every movement a struggle, the walls pressing in around them. Alex's screams of pain were muffled by the water, his face contorted in agony. Desperation drove Zoe to fight harder. She managed to wedge her knife into the shark's gills, momentarily distracting it. She seized the opportunity to drag Alex away, their movements frantic and disjointed. They stumbled through the narrow passageways, the shark's presence never far behind. Finally, they broke free from the cave, the open water a welcome relief. But Alex's injuries were severe, his blood trailing behind them in a grim reminder of the attack. Zoe clung to him, her mind racing with the need to get him to safety. They ascended as quickly as they could, but time was against them. As they neared the surface, Alex's strength waned. His breaths came in ragged gasps, his eyes filled with pain and fear. Zoe's heart ached as she watched her friend struggle, her own tears mixing with the salt water. She held onto him, refusing to let go. They broke the surface, the sunlight blinding after the darkness of the cave. Zoe screamed for help, her voice hoarse and desperate. Nearby boats responded, rushing to their aid. With the help of the fishermen, Alex was pulled onto one of the boats, his life hanging by a thread. The rush to the hospital was a frantic blur. Alex was in critical condition, his legs savagely mauled by the shark. He suffered severe lacerations and significant blood loss. Miraculously, Alex survived, but he had to deal with the trauma for the rest of his life. He warned everyone to never go into the ocean again and was furious at the dangers of the sea. In the aftermath of the attack, the local fisherman who witnessed the rescue described the scene with horror and relief. Dimitris, one of the fishermen, said, "It was a sight I will never forget. The water was red with blood, and the panic on Zoe's face was heart-wrenching. But seeing Alex alive, it was a miracle." And there you have it. 6 of the most horrifying tales of what can happen when humans meet the deadly forces of the water. If these stories kept you on the edge of your seat, imagine what else is out there, waiting to be uncovered. Don't miss out on our next deep dive into the unknown. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join us as we explore the dark corners of our world.